Space Coconut.
I hope you guys liked that. It took a little doing. A lot of you missed the old intros, so I was kind of interested in seeing how I could mix the new one and the old one together. So let me know what you think. I'm gonna definitely hire somebody to make something nicer later on, but this is good enough for now. Anyway, today, let's talk about Nemesis. Nemesis says, you seek retribution on those who have wronged you. A survivor who blinds or stuns you using a pallet or locker becomes your obsession. Anytime a new survivor becomes the obsession, they are afflicted by the Oblivious status effect for 60 seconds, and their aura is shown to you for 4 seconds. The killer can only be obsessed with one survivor at a time. Now, this perk has several parts to it, and you can really only use a few of them at a time. Depending on which map you're on, like say Autohaven Wreckers, where a survivor stuns you with a pallet and they can still see you, losing your terror radius isn't really going to do anything for you in that chase. Usually something in that case is meant to be able to enable the killer to mind game the survivor and have a heads up as to what they're doing. In case you've forgotten, on top of that, I did, Oblivious itself prevents the survivor from hearing the killer's terror radius. In addition to that, any perks that utilize the terror radius to affect the survivor won't affect the survivor in this case. The problem with Oblivious on Nemesis in this case, if you're already in a chase or you get hit by a survivor and they become your obsession, right, through head-on or decisive strike, or I'm not sure if decisive triggers this, I'm not sure, but they already know where you are. A good survivor is going to keep track of you after that point, so losing your terror radius isn't really going to matter. If you lose it instantly, they know you're already nearby, so that effect is kind of negligible, especially because you can't actually track the survivor afterwards. If you decide to let them go for this period of 60 seconds, you can't find them again. You might be able to stumble on them later on, but they're going to have other survivors helping them, in this matter. So Oblivious is kind of especially because you can't track the obsession after the 4 seconds. Now the third, and depending on who you are, how long you've been playing this, the least obvious of the effects in Nemesis is the fact that the obsession changes here. Now, there are 7 obsession perks in the game right now for the killer that this would utilize. Dark Devotion, Dying Light, Furtive Chase, Play with Your Food, Rancor, Remember Me, and Save the Best for Last. Now, during a chase, you get stunned. The person you're chasing, the survivor you're chasing, becomes the obsession. In most cases, Dying Light and Save the Best for Last are going to work best if you avoid your obsession. So if you get into a chase with a survivor, they're injured, and you get them at a pallet, they stun you with the pallet, you down them, the downed survivor is now your obsession. So in the case of Save the Best for Last, we'll talk about that in a second, but Dying Light, you're not going to get a token if you hook your obsession, the survivor who is now your obsession. The Save the Best for Last, that effect comes into play during a chase even before you hit the survivor the first time. If you're chasing a regular survivor, you hit them, and at any point, actually you don't even hit them, at any point during this chase, if they stun you with a pallet or anything, they become your obsession, you should abandon them in order to gain your stacks for Save the Best for Last, because you want that recovery time more than anything else. So for those 2 perks in particular, Nemesis is going to actively disable those perks. There are 2 perks that ask you to focus on your obsession, Furtive Chase and Remember Me. A Furtive Chase will swap the obsession if a survivor rescues an obsession off of the hook. That action doesn't actually trigger Nemesis. Remember Me, if you switch obsessions, the number of tokens that you get, although it sounds good, as soon as you switch, you lose all of your tokens. At least this is the way it worked when the new decisive strike when the new decisive strike came in. I remember I had 4 or 5 tokens on my obsession, and I downed and tunneled somebody else. They hit me with decisive strike. They became my obsession, and I lost all of the tokens for Remember Me. So If that is still the case, then Nemesis is going to have you lose all of your tokens from Remember Me once they get switched. Furtive Chase doesn't activate. It doesn't help you activate Nemesis. In addition to that, if I'm right, Furtive Chase only lowers your terror radius. Nemesis will outright remove it for 60 seconds. So the difference between the two is kind of meh. Well, I guess it's, yeah, they're both equal in some cases. But anyway, the next two obsession perks, Dark Devotion and Play with Your Food, have you alternate between regular survivors and your obsession. Now, this is where Nemesis can come into play. Dark Devotion, if you hit your obsession, you lose your terror radius and they gain your terror radius. For them, I don't know how it would work with the Nemesis. I don't know if they still gain a terror radius because you lost yours, but if Nemesis doesn't let them hear it after the Oblivious, I don't know how that interaction works. Let me know in the comments below. But after you hit them with Dark Devotion, or Nemesis kicks in, and then you down that survivor or hit that survivor, you can go and search for another survivor or other survivors to torment without a terror radius. The problem is that Dark Devotion by itself isn't that great in this case. You don't have any tracking perks to find individual survivors. You might be able to use Discordance if two survivors are on a gen, but you're giving up 3 perk slots just to use one perk. So it's very inefficient. It's very inefficient to play this way, but I mean, the payout can be very fun. I wish Dark Devotion had a built-in tracking component. The single best... okay, before I talk about Play with Your Food, we're going to talk about Rancor. Now, Rancor, in the end game, can have you sacrifice or outright kill multiple survivors, but I think you'd want to get Blood Warden in on that to down the survivor and, mori them, and then somehow chase other survivors, get stunned, and mori them as well before they escape out of the gates. So it's very memey, and it's probably not going to work. Well, it might at lower ranks, but it might not work as well as we would like it to. It might be something I'd give a shot, though. I might try that. But the only and single best interaction that Nemesis has with another perk is Play with Your Food. And the awesome thing about this is that Play with Your Food asks you to get into a chase with your obsession and then leave your obsession. I'm sure, as many of you have seen by now, if a killer is chasing a survivor with Nemesis and Play with Your Food, the killer gets stunned by the pallet, breaks the pallet, and by the time they can resume the chase, they have lost the obsession and gained a token for Play with Your Food. They're now 5% faster, which is awesome. If you can effectively stack more tokens up to 3 and then down your obsession, you're stuck at 2, and you might be able to get a 3rd as you chase a new survivor. Being able to swap obsessions in this case with Play with Your Food is very powerful. The problem comes with how easy it is to lose tokens and how difficult it can be to gain them back. Any killer who does not have the capacity to have a one-hit down has to use up 2 tokens to down a survivor. The speed boost, the 5% speed boost, can be negligible and less noticeable on slower killers like the Hag or the Spirit. Other killers, they might prove pretty beneficial, but you're still using 2 tokens to down 1 survivor. Although if they stun you during the chase, you can gain these tokens back, but it's not as effective unless you're using a killer with a single hit down. So Hillbilly, Bubba in this example work really, really well because they just use 1 token to down a survivor, but with 1 use of their power. It's very effective. So Nemesis is very good on killers like that. If you're using Myers, this might make it easier for you to find your obsession because you can create one outright and then, do the tombstone thing. I'm not sure, but you'd have to get stunned in order for that to happen. And then you're using that time doing that. I don't know. There are going to be a lot of interactions that people are going to discover over time, but for now, I really think Nemesis only works best with Play with Your Food. The Oblivious status effect will kind of help you, but most likely not. And the aura reading, well, you can get kind of a inkling on where they're at unless, you can see each other on low walls. So It has a very, very narrow use, but that use can be very effective. I personally just am not very good with these types of killers, so I may not be as effective as other players would be using them. I believe on the same day that I finally got Nemesis on Bubba, Otz dropped a video using Nemesis Play With Your Food on Leatherface. So if you haven't seen that, which you probably have, definitely check that out. All in all, Nemesis is very narrow, but it's very interesting. It has a lot of functionality, a lot of different things that you can do. We just got to figure out how to use them effectively. Because it's so narrow, for now, we're going to give it a C. None of these effects actually help a killer slow down the game, which, in my opinion, is the most effective type of perk. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter how fast you run, if you are up against a good survivor who can loop you anyway through these, A, you're a bad killer like me, B, they're just going to rush the other gens. So it's a combination of things, but it's going to be very interesting to see how people end up using this. I think it has some potential. We just need to find the right interactions for it. So let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know what you thought about my breakdown and kind of just the overall stuff of this perk. Over the next couple of days, we do have a Twitch Hunter, which is going to be fun. And then I have a Hagbrain video. I'm trying something new. I'm going to be talking as I trap the things. I've done it once before. I'm not sure how you guys are going to like it. I guess we'll see. Definitely let me know what you thought of the new intro. I'm going to save up some cash. And, oh, speaking of that, some people actually bought some stuff out of the store. Some crazy head bought 2 mugs and a shirt, and then 2 other people bought shirts. So, I mean, awesome. I really, really appreciate it. I like that you guys like this stuff. If you are interested, I can do the same for the new coconut. I can put that on different stuff, but let me know what you think. Let me know if you feel like it. It might replace some other shirts and things like that. I do not know. If you have ideas for shirts that you'd like to see, let me know, and I'll see what I can do, because, I mean, I made some of these things myself. Yeah, I think I've been talking for long enough, so I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to work on something else. Until tomorrow, I'll see you in the fog.